Tom Harris pushed through the door of quarters 247, B like a man who had forgotten what sleep felt like. His entire body ached. Every muscle screamed at him to just stop moving and collapse right there on the floor. The maintenance shift had lasted 16 hours instead of the scheduled 8 because someone had decided that today was the perfect day for 3 separate systems to fail at once. His uniform stuck to his skin with sweat. The fabric felt heavy and disgusting. Tom could smell himself and it was not pleasant. All he wanted was to get out of these clothes, take a sonic shower, and maybe sleep for the next 20 hours straight. He kicked off his boots without even looking where they landed. One hit the wall with a thud. The other skidded across the floor and stopped somewhere near the food prep area. Tom did not care. He grabbed the collar of his shirt and yanked it over his head in one smooth motion. The cool air of the quarters hit his sweaty chest and it felt amazing. His hands went to his belt buckle. He was already thinking about that shower. The sonic cleaners on Kepler 7 station were not as good as a real water shower back on Earth, but right now he would take anything. He unbuckled the belt, unzipped his pants, started to push them down his hips. That was when he heard it. A sound like air being sucked through teeth. Sure. Sudden. Very definitely not human. Tom's head snapped up so fast his neck cracked. His heart jumped into his throat. Standing near the bathroom unit, frozen like a statue, was Tessik. His VRYN roommate stood perfectly still. All 7 feet of him. His crystalline body, which was normally a calm blue-green color that reminded Tom of tropical ocean water, had turned purple. Deep purple. The color spread across his surface like ink in water, pulsing and shifting with each passing second. But it was Tessik's eyes that made Tom's stomach drop. All 4 of them. Wide open. Fixed on Tom with an intensity that made every hair on the human's body stand up. Tessik was not just looking at him. He was staring. The kind of stare that meant something significant had just happened. Tom looked down at himself. He was standing there in nothing but his underwear, pants around his ankles, shirt on the floor. Oh no. Oh damn. Sorry man, Tom stammered. He grabbed his shirt from where it had fallen and held it in front of himself like a shield. I didn't know you were home. I thought you were on shift until... He trailed off because Tessik still had not moved. Had not blinked. Had not made any sound except that one sharp intake of breath. The purple color on Tessik's skin kept getting deeper. Darker. Tom had lived with the VRNN for 3 weeks now. He had seen Tessik turn light blue when he was happy. Seen him turn yellow-green when he was concentrating on something. Once, when another resident had accidentally bumped into him in the corridor, Tom had seen him flash orange for just a second. But this purple? This was new. And from the way Tessik's whole body had gone rigid, from the way his chitinous plates had locked into place like armor, Tom was pretty sure this was bad. Tessik? You okay, buddy? The VRNN's translator device, a small disc attached to the side of his head, chirped softly. But Tessik did not say anything. Instead, he turned sharply on his heel and walked straight to his sleep pod on the far side of the room. His movements were stiff. Mechanical. Wrong. The sleep pod opened with a soft hiss. Tessik stepped inside. The pod sealed shut behind him with a click that sounded way too final. Tom stood there in the middle of their quarters, still holding his shirt, pants still around his ankles, trying to figure out what had just happened. They were roommates. They shared this space. People who lived together saw each other in various states of undress sometimes. That was just normal, right? It was not like Tom had done it on purpose. He had just come home after a terrible shift and wanted to get comfortable in his own living space. This was normal roommate stuff. Awkward, sure. But normal. Wasn't it? Tom pulled his pants back up and fastened them. He put his shirt back on even though it was still damp with sweat. He stood there for a long moment, staring at Tessik's closed sleep pod, trying to decide what to do. Should he apologize again? Try to explain? Humans did not think casual nudity was that big of a deal. They had public gyms with locker rooms where people walked around naked all the time. It was just bodies. Just skin and bones and muscle. Nothing special. Nothing meaningful. But clearly to Tessik it was something. Something big enough to make him turn that dark purple color and lock himself away without a word. Tom sat down on the edge of his own sleep pod. The station's lighting system began its evening cycle, dimming to a soft amber glow that was supposed to help residents from different worlds maintain healthy sleep patterns. The change in light made the quarters feel smaller somehow. More intimate. Usually at this time, Tessik would emerge from wherever he had been and they would share the evening together. Not talking much because the translator sometimes made conversation awkward, but existing in the same space comfortably. Tom would heat up his protein rations and eat while Tessik would settle into his meditation corner and absorb nutrients through his crystalline skin from a specialized gel. It had become routine. Comfortable. Tom had started to think that maybe this whole cultural exchange program thing would actually work out okay. Now Tessik's sleep pod stayed closed. The quarters felt too quiet. Tom could hear everything. The hum of the life support systems pushing air through the vents. The distant sound of voices from other quarters down the corridor. The soft ping of the station's computer announcing something to someone somewhere else. Tom heated up his dinner because he did not know what else to do. The protein block tasted like cardboard mixed with artificial chicken flavoring. He ate it anyway, chewing mechanically, not really tasting anything. His mind kept replaying that moment. The door opening. Him stripping off his clothes. Tessik emerging at exactly the wrong second. Those 4 eyes going wide. The purple spreading across his crystalline skin like a warning signal. What did purple mean for VONN? Tom realized he did not actually know. The cultural briefings back on Earth had covered basic stuff about different species. Don't stare at elderly because they find it aggressive. Don't touch a Corthan's head plates because they are sacred. Don't offer food to a silicate because they process minerals, not organic matter. But nobody had said anything about what colors meant for VONN. Nobody had mentioned what to do if you accidentally showed your body to your crystalline roommate. Tom finished eating and cleaned up his meal container. He was getting ready for bed, still glancing at Tessik's closed pod every few seconds, when finally it opened. Tessik emerged slowly. His color had changed to a muted gray-blue. Not the happy tropical ocean color. Not the alarmed purple. Something in between. Something that looked tired. The VONN moved to his usual evening spot, but he did not look at Tom. He kept his eyes focused on the wall, on the floor, on anything except the human standing 10 feet away. He began his routine with careful, precise movements that seemed different tonight. More formal. More distant. Tom took a breath. Tessik. Look, I'm really sorry about earlier. I should have checked before I just started. It is acknowledged, bonded one. The translator rendered Tessik's words in a flat, formal tone. Tom blinked. Bonded one? That was new. They had never used titles with each other before. It had always been just Tom and Tessik. Roommates. 2 guys sharing space and trying to figure out how to coexist. Bonded one? What does that mean? Tessik, I don't. This one requires rest. Tessik moved back to his sleep pod without another word. The pod sealed shut again. This time, Tom noticed a small light on the outside panel turn red. Privacy mode. Do not disturb. Tom stood alone in their quarters, more confused than he had been after 16 hours of emergency maintenance work. Something had definitely changed. Something had shifted in those few seconds when Tessik had seen him without clothes. Tom did not understand what. Did not know how to fix it. Did not even know if it could be fixed. He climbed into his own sleep pod and told the lights to turn off. In the darkness, he could hear Tessik's breathing on the other side of the room. Slow and steady. The sound of someone who was definitely not asleep. Tom stared at the ceiling of his pod and wondered what he had done. And more importantly, he wondered what would happen tomorrow when they both had to wake up and face each other again in this small space where there was nowhere to hide. Tom woke up to the sound of Tessik moving around the quarters. He opened his sleep pod carefully, not sure what to expect after the awkwardness of last night. His VONN roommate was standing near the food prep area, organizing his nutrient gels with the same mathematical precision he always used. Morning, Tom said, trying to sound normal. Trying to pretend nothing weird had happened. Tessik turned to face him. His color was a neutral green today, which seemed like a good sign. But when he spoke, his translator carried that same formal tone from last night. Good morning, bonded one. This one hopes your rest was sufficient. There it was again. Bonded one. Tom rubbed his eyes. Tessik, why do you keep calling me that? What does it mean? It is the proper form of address, Tessik replied. He tilted his head in that bird-like way he did when he was confused about something. Does the bonded one prefer a different title? I prefer Tom. Just Tom. Like always. Tom grabbed his uniform from where he had tossed it last night. It still smelled bad, but it was all he had until he could get to the laundry station. Look, about yesterday. I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable. I didn't mean to. It was just an accident. Tessik's color shifted slightly. A ripple of purple passed across his surface before settling back to green. This one understands. The bonded one need not apologize for the ritual of bonding. It is honored. Tom stopped with his shirt halfway on. Ritual? What ritual? Tessik, I was just taking off my dirty uniform. That's all. There was no ritual. But Tessik had already turned back to his nutrient gels. The conversation was apparently over. Tom finished getting dressed, more confused than ever, and headed out to grab breakfast from the station cafeteria. The corridor outside their quarters was busy with the morning rush. Residents from a dozen different species moved past each other with practiced ease. Tom had gotten used to the variety over the past few weeks. The tall, graceful elderly with their flowing robes. The stocky Corthans with their heavy footsteps. The small, quick silicates who zipped between everyone's legs like hyperactive cats. But today felt different. Today, when Tom passed two VRNN residents talking near a junction point, they both stopped and stared at him. One of them, a female VRNN named Kellis who worked in station communications, turned a bright orange color. The other one went very pale blue and made a clicking sound that the translator did not even try to interpret. Tom nodded at them politely and kept walking. Behind him, he heard them start talking rapidly in their own language, the words too fast for their translators to keep up. At the cafeteria, Tom grabbed a tray and got in line for the human food section. The guy in front of him was another exchange program participant named Charlie Beck, who shared quarters with a Corthan engineer. "Hey Charlie," Tom said. "Can I ask you something weird?" "Weird is pretty much standard around here," Charlie replied, loading his tray with something that was supposed to be eggs but looked more like yellow foam. "What's up? You ever accidentally see your roommate naked? Or the other way around?" Charlie laughed. "Yeah, like 3 times. Corthans don't really have the same privacy thing we do. They don't wear clothes on their home world because their plate armor covers everything important anyway." "Why? What happened when it happened?" "Nothing." He asked why I was making a weird face. I explained humans like privacy when changing clothes. Now he warns me when he's molting. Charlie grabbed a cup of coffee. "Why? Your VRNN roommates see you in your birthday suit?" "Other way around. Kind of. I mean, I was the one without clothes but he was the one who saw me." Tom shook his head. "And now he keeps calling me bonded one, and I don't know what that means." Charlie's eyebrows went up. "Bonded one? That sounds official." "That's what I thought." Tom paid for his food and found an empty table near the viewing window that looked out into space. Charlie sat down across from him. They were halfway through their artificial eggs when a VRNN maintenance worker approached their table. Tom recognized him. His name was Sir Rick and he had helped Tom fix a broken air recycler last week. "Excuse this one for the interruption," Sir Rick said. His translator gave him a polite, hesitant tone. "This one wishes to speak with the bonded one of Tessik, if permitted." Tom looked up. "That's me, I guess." "What's up, Sir Rick?" Sir Rick's color shifted through several shades before settling on a cautious yellow. "This one has heard the news. This one wishes to offer congratulations, but also to ask if the bonded one understands what has occurred." "That's exactly what I'm trying to figure out," Tom said. "What does bonded one even mean?" Sir Rick's eyes widened. "All 4 of them." He looked at Charlie, then back at Tom, then made a sound like wind chimes. "The human does not know?" "But surely Tessik explained before the ritual?" "What ritual?" "There was no ritual. I just came home from my shift and took off my dirty uniform and Tessik saw me. That's it. It was an accident." The color drained from Sirik's crystalline body. He went almost transparent, which Tom had never seen before. The human showed himself, without prior courtship? Without the formal declarations? Without the exchange of intentions? "I didn't show myself to anyone. I was just getting undressed in my own quarters because my uniform was gross and I wanted a shower." Tom was getting frustrated now. "Why does everyone keep acting like I did something huge?" Sir Rick sat down at their table without being invited. He leaned forward and his voice came out quiet, almost whispered. "Among VRNN, to allow another to see one's form without covering is the most intimate act possible. It is done only between life partners. Only after many seasons of courtship. Only when both have declared their intention to bond permanently." Tom felt his stomach drop. "You're kidding." "This one does not understand the concept of kidding in this context. It's a human expression. It means, oh no. Oh no no no." Tom put his head in his hands. "So when Tessik saw me without clothes he thought I was declaring bond intention." "Yes." Sirik's color had shifted to a sympathetic blue-green. For a VRNN to witness another's true form is to accept them as a life partner. The act itself is considered the bonding. There is no greater commitment among our people. Charlie whistled low. "Dude. You accidentally married your roommate." "I didn't marry anyone." Tom's voice came out louder than he intended. Several nearby residents turned to look. Tom lowered his voice. "It was an accident. A misunderstanding. How do I fix this? Surik tilted his head. Fix? The bonded one wishes to dissolve the bond? But it was freely given. Tessik witnessed the ritual. The commitment was made. There was no ritual. I was just taking off my sweaty clothes. Tom looked at Surik desperately. Look, humans don't work like that. For us, being naked doesn't mean anything special. We have whole buildings where people walk around without clothes. Public showers. Locker rooms. It's just bodies. Just skin. It doesn't mean we want to bond with everyone who sees us. Surik's color went through several rapid changes. Confusion purple. Surprise orange. Uncertain yellow. Finally settling on a doubtful gray. This one finds such a culture difficult to comprehend. To be so casual with one's form seems wrong. And to us, making such a big deal about it seems weird. Tom sighed. But I need to explain this to Tessik. He needs to know I wasn't trying to bond with him. It was just an accident. This one wishes the bonded one luck, Surik said, standing up. But this one must warn you. Other VRYNN on the station have already heard. Some are honored that a human would bond with one of our kind. Others are suspicious. They wonder what a human intends with such a bond. They do not understand your ways. After Surik left, Tom pushed his food away. He had lost his appetite completely. So what are you going to do? Charlie asked. I'm going to explain it to Tessik. I'll make him understand that it was a mistake. That humans don't work like VRNN. That I wasn't proposing or bonding or whatever. Tom stood up. How hard can it be? The rest of the morning proved exactly how hard it could be. Everywhere Tom went, VRNN residents stared at him. Some approached to offer congratulations that felt more like accusations. Others kept their distance but watched him with suspicious eyes. One elderly VRNN actually blocked his path in the corridor and demanded to know his intentions toward Tessik. Honorable ones, Tom tried to explain. We're just roommates. There was a misunderstanding. The elderly VRNN's color went bright red. A misunderstanding? The human claims the bonding ritual was a misunderstanding? Such disrespect. No, that's not what I meant. I meant that we didn't understand each other's cultures. I didn't know about your bonding customs. Where I come from. Excuses. Denials. The VRNN's voice got louder. Other residents stopped to watch. The human performs the sacred ritual and then claims ignorance? This is either cruelty or deception. A small crowd was gathering. Tom felt his face getting hot. I'm not being cruel or deceptive. I'm trying to explain that human culture is different. We don't have the same rules about being unclothed. It doesn't mean the same thing to us. But the more he tried to explain, the worse it got. The VRNN in the crowd began talking among themselves. Tom caught words from various translators. Bizarre courtship rituals. Denial as part of bonding. Strange human customs. Testing Tessik's commitment. Someone in the crowd said something about humans using rejection as a form of romance. Someone else mentioned a human film they had watched where the characters spent the whole time pretending not to like each other before finally admitting their feelings. That's fiction. Tom protested. That's not real. That's just entertainment. But nobody was listening anymore. The crowd had decided on their own explanation. Humans had weird, complicated courtship rituals that involved bonding first and then pretending it did not happen. It was strange, but then again humans were strange. Everyone knew that. Tom pushed through the crowd and headed back to his quarters. This was a disaster. He had accidentally committed to a life partnership with his roommate according to alien law, and now every attempt to explain that it was a mistake just made everyone think it was part of some elaborate human mating ritual. When he got back to quarters 247B, Tessik was there. The VRNN was in his meditation corner, surrounded by his nutrient gel. He looked calm, peaceful. His color was a soft, happy blue. Tom took a deep breath. He had to try one more time. He had to make Tessik understand. Tessik, we need to talk. About what happened yesterday. About this whole bonding thing. Tessik opened his eyes. All four of them focused on Tom with that same intensity from last night. Yes, bonded one. This one is prepared to discuss our union. Tom closed his eyes. This was going to be harder than he thought. The summons to Commander Zalrix's office came exactly 3 days after the incident. Tom had spent those 3 days trying and failing to convince Tessik that they were not actually bonded for life. Every conversation ended the same way. Tom would explain that humans did not work like VRYNN. Tessik would nod politely and continue calling him bonded one, like the discussion had never happened. Now they both stood in front of the commander's desk. Zalrix was elderly, which meant she was tall, elegant, and had a way of looking at people that made them feel like misbehaving children. Her silver skin reflected the office lights as she studied them both with her dark, unblinking eyes. "I have received complaints," she said without preamble. Her voice was cool and measured. "Multiple complaints from VRYNN residents about inappropriate conduct. Rumors are spreading throughout the station. This is disruptive to the cultural exchange program." Tom opened his mouth to defend himself, but Zalrix held up one long-fingered hand. "I do not wish to hear explanations or excuses. What I wish is for this situation to be resolved professionally." She tapped something on her desk display. "You are both assigned to joint research duty, cataloging biological samples from the recent survey of planet Theta 9. You will work together. You will complete the assignment. And you will demonstrate that cross-species partnerships can function effectively regardless of personal complications." "Commander, if I could just explain," Tom started. "The assignment begins immediately. Lab 7 is prepared for your use. You have 1 week to complete the catalog." Zalrix's expression did not change. "Dismissed." Outside the office, Tom and Tessik walked toward Lab 7 in silence. The awkwardness between them felt like a physical thing, heavy and uncomfortable. Other residents moved out of their way in the corridor. Some stared. Some whispered. Tom tried to ignore all of it. Lab 7 was a medium-sized research space filled with equipment Tom barely recognized. Along one wall stood rows of sample containers, each one holding something brought back from Theta 9. Plants, soil, water samples, atmospheric readings. The work would be tedious. Scanning each sample. Recording data. Cross-referencing with known biological markers. The kind of task that required 2 people to work closely together for hours at a time. Perfect. Just perfect. Tom grabbed a lab coat from the rack near the door and pulled it on. Tessik did not need protective clothing because his crystalline shell was basically armor, but he put on a coat anyway. Tom suspected it was because the protocol manual said to, and Tessik followed every rule exactly. They worked in silence for the first hour. Tom would scan a sample. Tessik would record the data. They moved around each other carefully, always maintaining distance, never making eye contact. The lab felt too quiet except for the hum of equipment and the soft beeping of scanners. By the second hour, Tom's frustration was building. This was ridiculous. They were 2 intelligent beings who could communicate through advanced translation technology, and they were acting like awkward teenagers who could not talk to each other. "So," Tom said, breaking the silence, "do VRYNN have weather on their home world?" Tessik looked up from his data pad. His color shifted to a surprised yellow. "Yes. VRYNN Prime has weather patterns." "Why does the bonded one ask?" "Just making conversation. We're going to be stuck in this lab together all week. Might as well talk." Tom scanned another plant sample. Some kind of purple vine with thorns. "And please stop calling me bonded one. My name is Tom." This one cannot simply stop using the proper title. It would be disrespectful to the bond. The bond that doesn't exist because humans don't bond by being naked around each other. Tom set down his scanner maybe a bit too hard. "Tessik, we've been over this. It was an accident. A cultural misunderstanding. Nothing more." Tessik's color rippled. Purple, then blue, then back to yellow. This one heard what humans say. That the bonded one claims it meant nothing. That showing one's form is casual for humans. This one struggles to comprehend such a concept. Why? Tom turned to face his roommate fully for the first time in days. Why is it so hard to believe that different species have different values? Because the act is so intimate. So vulnerable. To reveal oneself completely, without barriers, without protection. Tessik's color settled into a deep blue that Tom had not seen before. Sad blue maybe. For VRYNN, this is trust at its deepest level. This is saying, I am fragile and you could harm me but I believe you will not. How can such a thing be casual? Tom paused. He had not thought about it that way. I guess for humans we don't see our bodies as that vulnerable. They're just bodies. Everyone has one. They all basically work the same way. Showing someone your body doesn't mean you trust them more than anyone else. Then what does mean trust for humans? Tessik asked. His 4 eyes were fixed on Tom with genuine curiosity now, not judgment. Tom thought about it. Sharing feelings, I guess. Telling someone about your fears or your failures. Admitting when you're wrong or when you need help. That's the vulnerable stuff for us. But VRYNN do this easily. This one has told you many things about VRYNN culture and this one's experiences. Tessik tilted his head. This one did not realize such sharing was significant for humans. Well, it can be. Depends on what you're sharing. Tom picked up another sample container. This one had something that looked like orange moss. Look, the point is that every species has different boundaries. Different things that feel intimate or casual. Just because something means a lot to VRYN doesn't mean it means the same thing to humans. They fell back into silence, but it felt different now. Less hostile. More thoughtful. The accident happened during the 4th hour of work. Tom was reaching for a sample on a high shelf while Tessik was cataloging something at the main workstation. Tom's fingers closed around the container, but it was slippery. His grip failed. The container fell, hit the edge of the workbench, and exploded in a shower of clear, sticky gel. The gel went everywhere. All over Tom. All over the workbench. All over Tessik, who had been standing close enough to catch the blast. The substance was thick and gooey like honey mixed with glue. It clung to everything it touched. Tom stood there dripping. Tessik stood there also dripping. The gel covered Tessik's crystalline surface, making his color barely visible underneath. Some of it had gotten into Tom's hair and was now sliding slowly down his face. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Tom saw a glob of gel slip off Tessik's head and land on the floor with a wet plop. Tom started laughing. He could not help it. It was all too absurd. The serious conversation about cultural boundaries. The awkward tension between them. And now they were both covered in alien gel that smelled vaguely like burnt sugar. Tessik made a sound. A clicking, chirping sound that the translator did not bother interpreting. But Tom realized it was laughter. VRYN laughter. Different from human laughter, but serving the same purpose. This one must look ridiculous, Tessik said, trying to wipe gel off his arms and only succeeding in spreading it around more. You should see yourself from my angle, Tom replied, pulling a long strand of gel from his hair. You look like you lost a fight with a glue factory. They cleaned up together, still laughing. The gel was stubborn. It did not want to come off. They had to help each other reach spots they could not see or access. Tom wiped gel off Tessik's back plates. Tessik helped Tom get the stuff out of his hair without pulling chunks out. It was ridiculous and messy and somehow exactly what they needed. Can this one ask a question? Tessik said as they worked. Sure. When this one saw the bonded one, when this one saw Tom without clothing, how did Tom feel? Tom considered the question while scraping gel off his sleeve. Embarrassed mostly. Not because being naked is shameful, but because I didn't mean for anyone to see me right then. I felt exposed. Caught off guard. Like I'd made a social mistake. This one felt similar. Not embarrassed but exposed. Vulnerable. Tessik's color had shifted to that deep blue again. VRYN do not show their true forms lightly. Beneath our crystalline shells we are soft. Fragile. The shell protects us. When this one saw Tom's soft form without protection, this one thought, this human trusts me enough to be vulnerable in my presence. But I wasn't trying to show trust. I was just hot and sweaty and wanted to change clothes. This one understands that now. Intellectually. Tessik helped Tom wipe gel from his shoulder. But emotionally, the moment still feels significant. This one saw something private. Something that, in VRYN culture, this one should not have seen without years of courtship and formal declarations. Tom stopped cleaning and looked at Tessik directly. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to violate your boundaries or make you uncomfortable. If I'd known what it meant to your people, I would have been more careful. And this one is sorry for assuming Tom's actions carried VRYN meaning. This one should have asked for explanation before declaring a bond to the entire station. They stood there in the gel-covered lab, looking at each other honestly for the first time since the incident. Tom realized something important. They were both trying. Both struggling to understand a perspective that felt foreign and strange. Both making mistakes because they only knew their own culture's rules. So where does that leave us? Tom asked. Tessik's color shifted through several shades before settling on a cautious green. Perhaps it leaves us as what Commander Zaurick suggested. Partners learning to work together despite complications. Not bonded in the VRYN sense. But also not strangers who cannot speak honestly. I can work with that, Tom said. But you have to stop calling me bonded one. This one will try to call Tom by his name. Though it may take practice. Fair enough. They finished cleaning up the lab in companionable silence. The gel was finally gone, though the smell of burnt sugar lingered. They had lost 4 hours of work to one accident and the subsequent cleanup. But somehow, Tom felt like they had accomplished something more important than cataloging samples. When they finally left the lab that night, Tessik walked beside Tom through the corridors instead of maintaining careful distance. He still turned a slight purple when other VRYN stared, but his color settled back to calm blue more quickly than before. Back in quarters 247B, Tom heated his dinner while Tessik prepared his nutrient gel. They sat in their usual spots, but the heavy awkwardness was gone, replaced by something easier. Something that felt like the beginning of actual friendship. Tom, Tessik said suddenly. This one has a question about human culture. Shoot. If being unclothed is not intimate for humans, what does one do to show romantic interest? Tom nearly choked on his protein block. Well, that's complicated. Usually we talk to them. Ask them questions. Spend time together. Try to make them laugh. Tessik's color shifted to confused yellow. But this one has been doing those things with Tom. Does that mean this one has been accidentally courting by human standards? Tom laughed so hard he had to put down his food. And for the first time in days the sound felt natural and right. Tom woke to the sound of alarms. Not the loud emergency kind that meant everyone needed to evacuate. The quieter kind that meant something was wrong but maybe fixable. His sleep pod opened automatically as the safety protocol kicked in, and he stumbled out into the quarters still half asleep. The air felt wrong. Too cold. His breath came out in visible puffs of white vapor. The temperature display on the wall showed numbers dropping fast. 18 degrees. 17. 16. Tessik. Tom called out. The VRNN sleep pod opened. Tessik emerged, his crystalline body shifting rapidly through colors. Blue to purple to white and back again. The environmental system is malfunctioning. This one can feel the temperature dropping. Tom moved to the control panel near the door. His fingers were already getting numb from the cold. The display showed a critical error in the coolant circulation system. Somewhere in the walls, the pipes that carried liquid coolant to regulate temperature had developed a leak. The super-cold fluid was venting directly into their quarters instead of cycling through the proper channels. We have maybe 20 minutes before it gets dangerous, Tom said, reading the data. The coolant is nitrogen-based. Gets down to negative 40 degrees. At that temperature we'll get frostbite in minutes. Maybe worse. Should this one call for emergency maintenance? Tessik asked. Tom checked the system status. They're dealing with a power fluctuation in Sector C. It'll take them at least an hour to get here. We'll be frozen solid by then. He pulled up the diagnostic schematic, studying the layout of the coolant pipes. I can fix this, maybe. If we can access the damaged section and seal it before the temperature drops too far. What does Tom need this one to do? The main shutoff valve is behind that panel. Tom pointed to an access hatch near Tessik's meditation corner. But the pipes will be cold. Really cold. Cold enough to damage human skin on contact. Tessik moved to the panel without hesitation. VRYNN crystalline structure can withstand extreme temperatures. This one's hands will not be damaged by cold. They worked quickly. Tom grabbed his toolkit while Tessik pried open the access panel. A blast of freezing air poured out, carrying with it a mist of vaporized coolant. The temperature display hit 12 degrees. Tom's hands were shaking now, partly from cold and partly from adrenaline. There, Tom pointed into the open panel. See that valve? The blue one. You need to turn it clockwise until it stops. That'll shut off the flow to this section. Tessik reached into the panel. His crystalline hands disappeared into the freezing mist. Tom heard the VRNN make a sound of discomfort, but Tessik did not pull back. His color had gone completely white, frost forming on his surface. It's stuck, Tessik said through his translator. His voice sounded strained. The valve will not turn. You need to force it. Use both hands. Put your weight into it. Tom watched Tessik brace himself and pull. The VRNN's entire body went rigid with effort. For a moment nothing happened. Then Tom heard a metallic groan. The valve moved. Slowly at first, then faster as Tessik got it turning. It's working, Tom said. Keep going. The temperature gauge stopped dropping. 11 degrees and holding. That meant the flow was cut off, but they still had to seal the actual leak before they could restore heat to the quarters. Now the hard part, Tom said. He pulled out a portable seal kit from his toolbox. The leak is somewhere in that pipe network. I need to find it and patch it, but the pipes are too narrow for my hands. I need someone with smaller fingers who can reach into tight spaces. This one's hands are larger than Tom's hands. I know. But my hands can't touch those pipes without getting frostbite. Tom looked at the cramped space behind the panel. Your hands can handle the cold, but I need to guide you because I know how the seal kit works. They positioned themselves at the panel opening. Tom knelt beside Tessik, close enough that he could see into the space and direct the VRNN's movements. The cold was brutal now. Even without touching the pipes, Tom could feel the chill radiating from them. His teeth started chattering. Okay, reach in toward the left. Feel for a pipe that's colder than the others. That's where the leak is. Tessik's hand disappeared into the maze of pipes. Tom could see frost forming wherever the VR went in touched. This one feels multiple cold pipes. Find the coldest one. There'll be moisture on it. Ice crystals. Found it? This one feels ice. Good. Now I'm going to hand you the sealant tube. You need to apply it directly to the crack. Cover the whole damaged area. Tom's hands were so numb he almost dropped the tube. He managed to pass it to Tessik. Squeeze it slowly. The sealant expands as it cures. Tom watched Tessik work, calling out instructions. Move left. A little higher. More sealant on that spot. The temperature had started dropping again. 9 degrees. Tom's whole body was shaking now. He could barely feel his fingers or toes. Almost done, Tessik said. His color had gone completely pale, frost covering his entire body. The seal is applied. Now we wait 60 seconds for it to cure. Then we can turn the valve back on and restore heat. Those 60 seconds felt like an hour. Tom counted them out loud to keep himself focused. His brain was getting foggy from the cold. At 30 seconds he realized he could not feel his hands at all. At 45 seconds, his vision started to blur at the edges. Tom? Tessik's voice sounded far away. Tom is shivering very badly. Just cold. I'm okay. Keep counting. 60 seconds. The seal should be cured. Tessik pulled his hands out of the panel and moved back to the valve. He turned it counterclockwise. Tom heard the hiss of coolant starting to flow again, but this time through the proper channels. The temperature gauge hesitated at 7 degrees, then slowly started climbing. 8, 9, 10. Tom tried to stand up but his legs would not cooperate. He ended up sitting on the floor, still shaking. Tessik moved to his side and Tom realized the Vironin was shaking too. Not from cold, but from exhaustion. Frost still covered Tessik's body in patches, making him look like a statue left out in winter. We did it, Tom said. His voice did not sound right. Too quiet. Too shaky. Tom needs warmth. Tessik went to the storage unit and pulled out every blanket they owned. He wrapped them around Tom's shoulders, tucking them in carefully. You're covered in frost, Tom observed. His brain was still foggy. Does that hurt? This one will recover. VONN are resilient to temperature extremes, but that was difficult. Tessik sat down next to Tom, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. This one was frightened. Me too. They sat together as the temperature slowly climbed back to normal. 15 degrees. 18. 20. Tom's shaking gradually stopped. Feeling returned to his fingers and toes in painful prickles. Tessik's frost began to melt, creating small puddles on the floor. Can this one ask Tom a question? Tessik said quietly. Yeah. Is Tom lonely here? On this station? The question caught Tom off guard. He pulled the blankets tighter around himself while he thought about how to answer. Sometimes. Yeah. I miss home. I miss people who understand me without needing a translator. I miss food that actually tastes like food. I miss knowing the rules without having to learn them the hard way. Tessik's color shifted to that deep blue Tom had learned meant sadness. This one feels the same. This one volunteered for the exchange program to represent VONN well. To show that our species can cooperate with others. But this one did not expect it to be so isolating. You feel isolated? But you have other VRYNN on the station. I've seen you talk to them. Yes. And they all have expectations. They watch to see if this one succeeds or fails. They judge every action. When the bonding misunderstanding happened, they had opinions. Strong opinions. Some thought this one brought honor to VRYNN by bonding with a human. Others thought this one was foolish for trusting an alien. Tessik's voice got even quieter. This one cannot simply be Tessik. This one must be a representative of all VRYNN. It is exhausting. Tom understood that feeling completely. Every time I mess up, I worry that humans back on Earth will hear about it. That they'll think all humans are careless or rude or ignorant. Like when I accidentally triggered the bonding thing with you. I wasn't just Tom making a mistake. I was a human making humanity look bad. But Tom did not make humanity look bad. Tom simply did not know VRYNN customs. This is understandable. And you didn't make VRYNN look bad by assuming I was doing a bonding ritual. You just didn't know human customs. Tom shifted under his blankets to look at Tessik directly. We're both trying really hard not to screw up and we're both terrified of representing our entire species wrong. That's kind of the same problem, isn't it? Tessik's color shifted through several shades before settling on a thoughtful green. This one had not considered it that way. But yes, we carry the same burden. Just from different directions. The temperature hit 22 degrees. Almost comfortable. Tom could think clearly again. His hands had stopped shaking. Tessik's frost had completely melted, leaving his crystalline surface clean and gleaming. You know what the weird thing is? Tom said. When that coolant started leaking, I didn't think about representing humanity. I just thought about fixing the problem. And you helped without worrying about what other VRYNN would think. We just worked together because we needed to. The crisis removed the weight of expectation, Tessik agreed. This one could simply act instead of worrying about acting correctly. Maybe that's what we should do more often. Just act like ourselves instead of like representatives. Tom pulled off one of the blankets now that he was warm enough. I mean, we're still going to mess up sometimes. We're still going to misunderstand each other's cultures. But at least we can mess up as Tom and Tessik instead of as human and VRYNN. Tessik made that clicking sound that Tom had learned was VRYNN laughter. This one would prefer that. This one is tired of being VRYNN representative. Being Tessik sounds much easier. Being Tom is pretty exhausting too, honestly. But it's better than being human representative number 7. They sat in comfortable silence as the quarters returned to normal temperature. The alarm had stopped. The environmental system showed all green indicators. The crisis was over. But something had shifted between them during those freezing minutes of working together. Something important. Tom, Tessik said eventually. This one is grateful for your engineering skills. Without them we would both be frozen. And I'm grateful for your temperature-resistant hands. Without them I'd be missing a few fingers right now. Tom stood up slowly, testing his legs. They work properly now. We make a good team. When we're not worrying about cultural taboos and bonding rituals and all that complicated stuff. Perhaps we have been thinking about this wrong from the beginning, Tessik said. Perhaps the goal is not to avoid all cultural misunderstandings. Perhaps the goal is to handle them together when they happen. Tom nodded. I like that better. Trying to never mess up is impossible. But fixing messes together? That we can do. Tessik's color shifted to a warm golden yellow that Tom had never seen before. Happy yellow but deeper somehow. Contented yellow. This one agrees. Also, this one believes we should report the coolant leak to maintenance so it does not happen again. Probably a good idea, Tom said. But first, I need about 6 blankets and the hottest shower this station can produce. I don't think I've ever been that cold in my life. This one will file the maintenance report while Tom recovers. As Tom headed for the shower, still wrapped in blankets, he realized something. For the first time since the bonding incident, he and Tessik had spent significant time together without awkwardness. Without forced politeness or careful distance. They had just been two people solving a problem and it had worked. Maybe that was what real partnership looked like. Not the absence of problems, but the ability to face them side by side. Commander Zaurix stood behind her desk with the same unreadable expression she always wore. Tom and Tessik sat across from her, both wondering why they had been summoned again. It had been 2 weeks since the coolant incident. 2 weeks of actually comfortable coexistence in quarters 247B. 2 weeks of working together in Lab 7 without awkwardness. I have reviewed your research project, the commander said, sliding a data pad across her desk. The biological catalog is complete, thorough, and ahead of schedule. Well done. Thank you, Commander, Tom said. Zaurix tapped something on her own display. I have also reviewed the station records regarding your alleged bonding status. After consultation with VRYNN cultural advisors and human behavioral specialists, I am officially updating your partnership classification. Tom felt his stomach tighten. Here it came. The formal reprimand. The separation. Maybe even expulsion from the program. You are classified as cross-species colleagues with compatible working dynamics, Zaurix continued. The bonding designation has been removed from all official records. However, I am noting in your files that you have demonstrated exceptional ability to navigate cultural misunderstandings and adapt to challenging circumstances. Tom blinked. Wait, that's good, right? It is very good. The commander's expression softened slightly, which for an elderly was like a human breaking into a huge smile. In fact, your partnership has become a case study for the program. You have shown other residents that cultural conflicts can be resolved through honest communication and mutual effort. Tessik's color shifted to surprised orange. This one does not understand. The bonding incident caused significant disruption. Many VRYNN were upset. Initially, yes. but your handling of the situation afterward demonstrated maturity and cultural sensitivity. Zalrix pulled up another file. Since the incident, 3 other cross-species pairs have come forward with their own cultural misunderstandings. All of them cited your example as the reason they felt comfortable seeking help rather than hiding their problems. Tom had not known that. He had been so focused on fixing his own mess that he had not noticed other people watching and learning. There is one more matter, Zalrix said. Colony Mission Designation 7 has an opening. 2 positions for qualified residents who have demonstrated successful cross-species cooperation. The mission launches in 3 months. I am offering those positions to you both if you are interested. Tom looked at Tessik. Tessik looked at Tom. They had talked about colony missions before, back when they first arrived at the station. It was the ultimate goal of the exchange program. Proof that different species could not just tolerate each other, but actually build something together. This one would be honored, Tessik said. His color had shifted to that golden yellow Tom had learned meant deep contentment. Yeah, Tom added. We're in. The news spread through the station quickly. Tom and Tessik, the accidental bonding pair who had become the program's success story, were heading to a real colony world. Other residents congratulated them in the corridors. Some with genuine warmth. Some with curiosity about how a human and a VRYNN would handle actual colony life. The VRYNN community's reaction was mixed. Surik approached Tom in the cafeteria a few days later, his color a pleased blue-green. This one is happy for you both, Surik said. You have shown that understanding is possible even across great cultural divides. Thanks, Surik. That means a lot. May this one offer advice for the colony mission? Sure. Surik leaned closer. The other species going on your mission will have their own cultural rules. Their own boundaries. Their own ways of expressing trust and friendship. Learn them before making assumptions. Tom smiled. That's exactly what Tessik and I have been telling each other. Ask first, assume nothing. Wise words. This one believes you will do well. But not all the reactions were positive. The elderly VRNN who had confronted Tom weeks ago stopped him outside quarters 247B one evening. Her color was a disapproving red. The human thinks this incident is resolved, she said. But this one remembers. The human performed a sacred ritual and then denied its meaning. Such disrespect toward VRYNN culture should not be rewarded with a colony position. Tom took a breath before responding. He had learned that getting defensive only made things worse. I understand why you see it that way. From a VRYNN perspective, what I did was disrespectful. But from a human perspective, I was just existing in my own living space without knowing I was breaking a rule I had never been taught. Ignorance is not an excuse. You're right. It's not. But it is an explanation. And it's a starting point for learning. Tom met her eyes calmly. I didn't mean to disrespect your culture. Now that I know better, I'm more careful. I check before undressing in shared spaces. I ask questions about customs instead of assuming. That's all anyone can do, really. Learn and try to do better. The elderly VRNN's color shifted slightly. Still red, but a lighter shade. This one supposes that is acceptable. Barely. She walked away without another word, but Tom counted it as progress. She had not yelled. Had not demanded he be removed from the program. She had just expressed her opinion and left. That was something. Back in the quarters, Tom found Tessik organizing their belongings into categories. Things to bring to the colony. Things to leave behind. Things to donate to other residents. Planning already? Tom asked. This one believes in preparation. The colony mission requires careful packing. Weight restrictions are significant. Tom sat on his sleep pod and watched Tessik work. The VRYNN moved with methodical precision, measuring and categorizing everything. It was very Tessik. Very different from Tom's own approach of throwing things in boxes at the last minute. Can I ask you something? Tom said. Always. Do you ever regret that first day? The incident? If you could go back and change it, would you? Tessik stopped organizing. His color shifted through several shades before settling on thoughtful green. This one has considered that question many times. The incident was uncomfortable. Confusing. It created problems that took weeks to resolve. That's not really an answer. Because this one's answer is complicated. Tessik turned to face Tom fully. If this one could prevent the misunderstanding while keeping everything that came after, this one would. But the two things are connected. The misunderstanding forced us to communicate honestly. To learn about each other's cultures deeply instead of superficially. To become actual partners instead of just polite roommates. So you're saying the embarrassing accident was actually good? This one is saying that good things can come from bad beginnings. The incident itself was not good, but what we built from it was valuable. Tessik's color shifted to that golden yellow again. This one would not trade the friendship we have now for the comfort of never having experienced the awkwardness. Tom smiled. Yeah, I get that. Though I still wish I'd checked before stripping down that day. This one also wishes that. But this one does not wish away what happened after. Over the next 3 months, Tom and Tessik became unofficial cultural advisors for the station. Other residents came to them with questions and problems. A Corthan and a silicate who could not agree on proper living space temperature. A human and an elderly who kept accidentally insulting each other with their greetings. 2 species who both used the same gesture but with opposite meanings. Tom and Tessik helped where they could. Not by providing perfect solutions but by sharing what they had learned. Ask questions. Assume good intentions. Accept that misunderstandings will happen. Fix them together instead of assigning blame. The approach worked more often than not. One evening, a young human named Sarah knocked on their door. She looked stressed and tired. I heard you guys help with cultural stuff, she said. My VRWN roommate thinks I'm trying to bond with him because I helped him reach something on a high shelf yesterday. I wasn't. I was just being helpful. But now things are weird and I don't know how to fix it. Tom and Tessik exchanged a look. Then they both started laughing. What's funny? Sarah asked, confused. Nothing, Tom said, still grinning. It's just that we've been exactly where you are. Come in. We'll help you figure it out. They spent an hour explaining VRWN bonding customs to Sarah and coaching her on how to clarify her intentions without making her roommate feel rejected. By the time she left, she looked relieved and more confident. We're getting good at this, Tom observed after she was gone. Practice makes competent, Tessik agreed. This one has helped 7 pairs navigate cultural conflicts this month. I've helped 5. Though 2 of them came back for follow-up advice, so maybe I'm not as good at it as I thought. Follow-up means they trust Tom's advice enough to return. That is positive. The colony mission launch date arrived faster than Tom expected. He stood in the docking bay with a single pack of belongings, watching the transport ship being loaded with supplies and equipment. 42 colonists from 7 different species, all heading to a world that had never been settled before. Tessik stood beside him, his color a calm blue-green. The VRWN had packed with characteristic precision. Everything he owned fit into 2 perfectly organized containers. Nervous? Tom asked. Extremely. You. Terrified. But also excited. Tom watched a group of Corthans loading heavy equipment onto the ship. We're actually doing this. Building a colony from scratch with a bunch of aliens. Building a colony from scratch with partners, Tessik corrected. Not aliens. Partners. Charlie Beck walked past carrying his own bags. He stopped when he saw Tom and Tessik. You 2 ready for the adventure of a lifetime? Charlie asked. As ready as we'll ever be, Tom said. Still can't believe you guys went from accidentally getting married to becoming the station's relationship counselors. Charlie laughed. That's character growth right there. After Charlie moved on, Tom turned to Tessik. You know what the weirdest part is? He's right. 3 months ago, I thought my life on this station was ruined because I took my clothes off at the wrong time. Now I'm heading to a colony world with my best friend. Best friend. Tessik's color shifted to surprised yellow. This one was not aware of that designation. Well, you are. Unless VRWN don't do the best friend thing? VRWN have a similar concept. We call it shell mate. One who sees beneath your protective exterior and accepts what they find there. Tessik's color warmed to gold. This one would be honored to be Tom's shell mate. Shell mate. I like that better than best friend actually. The boarding announcement echoed through the docking bay. 42 colonists from 7 species began moving toward the transport ship. Tom picked up his pack. Tessik picked up his containers. Together they walked toward their future. As they entered the ship, Tom thought about that first day in quarters 247B. Walking in tired and careless. Not checking his surroundings. Making a mistake that had felt like the end of everything. But it had not been the end. It had been a beginning. A messy, awkward, embarrassing beginning that had taught him more about communication and friendship and bridging differences than any training program could have. Sometimes the worst moments led to the best outcomes. Sometimes making a complete fool of yourself in front of your alien roommate was exactly what you needed to stop seeing them as alien and start seeing them as a person. The transport ship's doors closed behind them. The engines hummed to life. Through the viewport, Tom watched Kepler 7 station grow smaller as they pulled away. Tessik stood beside him, his color that perfect golden yellow that meant contentment and happiness. "Ready for this?" Tom asked. "With you as a shellmate? This one is ready for anything." The ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying them toward a world where they would build something new. Together. Human and VRYN. Tom and Tessik. Partners who had learned that the biggest differences could become the strongest bonds. All because of one embarrassing moment that changed everything.